We discussed the future of audiobooks. Is it graphic audio? Is it AI? Or is it just the plain old Audible that everyone's already been listening to? This is Next Chapter. I'm Marty, and this is Jaden, and we're going to have a great conversation.
How much of that technology is already here? A lot of that is starting to come out. We see some big partnerships in places like Audible, where they're buying up these laboratories to try and get more into spatial audio and graphic audio. This is going to be an exciting conversation.
For sure. And so we started out this week by trying out what a lot of people or some people call the future of audiobooks. A lot of our commenters, subscribers have told us we have to try out some graphic audiobooks. They say that they're amazing. And so we tried it out. We were listening to Brandon Sanderson's White Sands with the graphic audio. We went through the first chapter, which aligns with the first chapter of the Arcanum Unbounded series, a collection of short stories. And so that's as much we read with White Sand. And so that is what our experience was based off of.
And quite an interesting experience, if I might say, right off the bat. What was our experience with our first graphic audio book? And I'll start by saying I was really thrown. Like it was hard for me.
Yeah.
It didn't flow like a regular audiobook. And I think about this because regular audiobooks, if you listen to them from Audible or other places, a voice actor, and many times multiple voice actors, but will change their voices to match a specific character. So that's normal. That's expected. Where it'll be like, okay, there's a different voice. You kind of tell where the different characters are. But this is where graphic audio, completely different actors. They're adding things like sound effects and other elements
the walking
to the
in the
story.
Sand, the
Yeah, it threw me off.
Really?
The sound effects especially. We'll get there, but man.
Okay. Well, so
what was your impression?
Honestly, I think I had the opposite of experience of you.
Okay.
I really liked it. I thought it was awesome. I loved the music in the background, the intensity. You could hear them like yelling and stuff. There were parts of it that kind of felt like a little awkward, but like there were other parts of it that I was like, I'm digging this. Like I'm a fan. I don't know if I'd go as far to say is that this is now my preferred format of audio, but it wasn't something that I was completely like pushed away from.
Well, let me ask you a key question though that I think might make the difference between your experience and mine. How fast did you listen to the graphic audio?
The fastest I would go on graphic audio was 2-speed, but I preferred 1.5 with that.
I listened on 1.5 and I think it screwed up all of the sound effects, all of them.
Yeah. Like
the walking does not sound like walking. It sounds like some weird rhythmic pattern. You're just like that. It's too fast for a walk, but it doesn't sound like a run. It's just weird. And it just pulls you out of the story. If you are subscribed to the channel, which if you aren't, you should be, but you've heard me talk multiple times about my least favorite thing in a book, is to get pulled out of the book because of some weird quirk. Usually it's an audiobook reader, but if it just pulls me out of the magic of the story, I get very frustrated.
Yeah.
And this was one of those things where it's like, if the walking doesn't line up, or the audio ramp that they use when they add a sound effect or add music is just too fast or too jarring, or they have a hard cut in audio, any of those things just really throw me off. And
interesting.
It just would bother me. Like, oh man, they started that sound effect way too late, or they cut into it too fast. They didn't bring in like that first ramp up. Ugh.
So were you able to enjoy the story at all because of it?
I have done everything possible to avoid getting thrown off by the graphic audio.
Yeah.
And we will probably have a fantastic review of White Sands overall on the channel, probably a couple of weeks from now, so don't forget to subscribe to see it. But yeah, I do think I can still get the gist of the story and I can still enjoy it. But I don't think it adds the magic for me that they're intending to add with the graphic audio.
Wow, that is a really interesting perspective.
Contrarian take.
I've read farther than you have in the series, and so I'm wondering if I'm being influenced by that because I kind of got used to it. Over the first part is 5 hours long, and the next two parts are each 5 hours. I've listened to the first full part. You listened to the first probably like hour and a half of the book. And so, like, I think by the end of the 5 hours, I'm like, I'm just in. Like, I liked
invested
it.
In the story?
I like it a lot. I think the graphic audio worked really well. I wonder, though, if part of the reason why, like, you're hearing all the stomping in the sand and things like that, this is a little bit more into the Sanderson thing more fully, but it's the book was originally a graphic novel.
Yep.
And I don't know what that means. Like, I'll have to like look through it. It looks like a comic book.
Yeah.
There's no way that they're gonna have the like this person walked over to this or describe the scenes and
No,
stuff.
it's adapted. So it says at the very
Yeah.
beginning it was adapted.
Okay, because I was wondering, like, these guys must have like added their own stuff to like make it.
The
more that
narration
way.
is added.
Yeah, so I wonder if like that influenced it as well for you.
It
Like,
could be. I think the biggest thing about graphic audio that threw me off was, like I mentioned, the sound effects, but also music. Anytime you speed up music, it's just not right
Yeah,
because the rhythm doesn't quite work.
interesting.
And I think that's something that I probably ruined it for myself by listening to it faster than 1x, but I don't listen to any audiobooks at 1x speed.
Yeah.
What is that? So,
Well, I'm excited to see what this is like. Having read when I read a full book, I will probably be reading Warbreaker or Elantris on completely through graphic audio, and that one has like it's fully Sanderson, right?
Yeah.
It's fully the author, and this is something that I wanted to go into with like the audiobooks because you've got the graphic audio, and then you will have other books that just have different characters and different voices. But it's still the book. They're not really adding much more than just like different people reading it.
Yep.
Graphic audio, just so you know, is more than just different people like doing the voice acting. It's like they're like
fully edited,
fully edited sound effects, intense music. Like you're hearing like clangs of the swords and everything, and like you're hearing like everything in there. The one thing though that really bothers me with books is that when they add all these extra characters and everything, is when they do not have the novel in its purest form. Like, I want to hear all of the he said and she said and they did or whatever, because that's how the author wrote it, and I want to hear how the author wrote it. Like,
fair enough.
I was trying to listen to The Hobbit years ago, and like as soon as I realized that they were cutting all of that out, and I'm like, this isn't the same book. Like I've got to go find a different audiobook that actually includes everything in it. It was
all
driving me
words.
crazy that I couldn't find it. But to me, that matters a lot. I don't know if you have any thoughts.
I think
on that.
it might be because you have more experience reading a physical book, or like more experience in the reading process. Like think about, we talk about how this might be the future, and I do think it's leaning that direction because a lot of people are coming from, I watch a lot of movies, let me try and get into reading. Whereas I think in previous generations, potentially, reading was a lot more popular, and then movies are just a quick way to digest a similar storyline. But reading in a physical book was a lot more popular. Now you have things like the Kindle, you've got so many more movies and series and streaming and all this stuff. Even things like Instagram and TikTok have led to it's just so much easier to consume content visually. So maybe they're trying to grab a lot more of that audience, and they don't want to hear the he said, she said.
Well, they they definitely are, right? Because the graphic audio, their whole tagline in the beginning is a movie in your mind, right?
Yeah.
It's a movie in your mind and type thing. And
I
it totally
already
feels
had
that
a
way.
movie in my mind when I read the book.
Yeah.
I can read the physical book and it's a movie in my mind. That's the whole point of imagination.
Yeah, seriously.
And it's a much better movie. I don't like it.
And that's what I'm saying is like I kind of feel like they take so much like artistic liberties in order to paint the picture in your mind in the way that they have it envisioned that you can't really take your own imagination and put it in. I don't know. It's
I agree.
It's interesting.
It clashes against my own imagination. That's probably what my big issue is. Like, this is how I imagine it happening, and it's not add sword clang 2. Like, that's just not how it happens in my mind. So it just throws me off. So overall, I would say my impression was very mixed. I'm leaning toward a pessimistic take, but I do think more and more experience trying new things will be a good transition for me. But I do think this is potentially the future.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So if the future, though, is going to go in some sort of direction of change from how audiobooks are now, we've read other books, kind of like Dune. I don't know if you've listened to Ender's Game or not. They do this too, I think.
That was a physical book for me.
Yeah, but Dune, they do the same thing. Is they have different voice actors for each character. Were you a fan of that style of reading?
I am a big fan of that.
Okay, why is that? Like, what do you like differently about that, or how do you like that compared to a single guy reading it?
I think that matches my own mind of reading a lot more.
Yeah.
Where like you kind of have a voice. It's not really a voice, but in your head as you're reading, like when different characters say things, they say things differently.
Yeah.
So it matches that a lot better when there's different readers that I can. Okay, yep. Now this person's talking, but they don't take anything out of the book. They read it exactly as it is, just with different readers reading the dialogue, which I think is great.
Do you think it's an improvement on readers who would just read it all on their own and do different voices on their own?
I would say for an average audiobook reader, yes, it would be an improvement to have multiple actors. But I will say there are some elite audiobook readers that would probably do just as good of a job on their own. They're few and far between, but they exist, and I would not say that there's anything less in their portrayal of a book. That some people are just so good at it. They're just born to be audiobook readers. So yeah, I think it depends on the reader. I think in general, there's a lot of, you and I were talking about this in some of our other reviews. Like, there are some audiobooks where we're like, oh, that was rough. That was really rough.
It can break an audiobook, right?
It can, where they just don't have enough voices. Or they just, like, they go with an annoying voice when they're trying to make, like, a woman's voice. They're trying to make, like, an animal's voice, whatever it may be. And that happens a lot.
Or vice versa. I feel like whenever men do women's voices, it's annoying. And whenever the women do the men's voices, it's annoying. Yeah. I just cringe every time. I'm like, that's not what they sound like.
Right.
Like, that's not right.
So yeah, that would be a great candidate for, let's just get actual actors to read these parts.
Yeah.
If you're just not that good as an audiobook reader.
Yeah, true. And then you have some books that just tag team, right? Like you got the dynamic duo of Kate reading and
like A Way of Kings, where they read section by
Michael
section.
Michael Kramer, yeah. So depending on the point of view,
though, obviously, huge fan of Michael Kramer and Kate reading, but I think it's tricky for me to hear the same voice in two different people reading it. That throws me a little bit.
Yeah, that's awful.
So I don't.
That's
really
when the
love
male
that.
and female voices get real bad,
because you're like, oh wait, hold on, that's the same person, but that's not the same voice.
Yeah, now that person's annoying.
Yeah. It's almost like the opposite of saying where you have different characters with different voices. Now you have the same character with different voices. Like it's rough, but I think they still do a good job just because they're great audiobook readers.
Oh yeah.
In general, though, I would not recommend that if you're planning on launching a book on Audible.
Oh, for sure. Well, so the last step here is there was big news in the AI world. We've discussed this once in a previous video. If you haven't caught it, got to subscribe. Got to catch those videos.
You keep missing our videos because you're not subscribed.
Like and subscribe. What the deal is. But we talked about how OpenAI has created a AI that it talks way more human-like, more natural. Like you're thinking probably Siri right now. No, like no.
Stop thinking that.
Yeah, stop thinking that. It's not like that. It's like way good. Yeah. And like on live, they have it say, hey, tell me a story. And it starts going into the story. Like, no. Make it dramatic. Now make it more and more dramatic. And it's going into this huge like enunciations and like inflections of their voice. It's really, really good. I was really impressed. And this is when it hit me that you and I had a conversation about AI and if I love Michael Kramer and the way that he reads his books. It's like you said that you would be able to have him read every single one of your books. And honestly, Jaden, I think we hit that point like this month. Like I think
we're there.
Well, I think by the end of the year we will see people who are saying like this is you're gonna have whoever you want read your book.
Think about how far we've come in the last 6 months.
Yeah. Which is also huge too, because there are new authors who are coming out who do not have people who have read their audiobooks. And so you could have AI read the book for you.
I mean, how much do you think it costs to have an audiobook reader read your book? It's got to take
a
long time. Like 50 hours of reading in some of these Way of Kings books. But you got to assume that they're doing multiple takes sometimes or editing stuff.
Months.
That's a long time to pay somebody.
Yeah, I cannot remember how many days it takes, like because they can only do a certain amount of hours a day because their voice starts getting tired, and like your voice has to stay the same by like throughout the whole time.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, it's crazy, dude. And
so if you're a young author, an inexperienced author, I should say, where you're launching your first book, you might not have the capital to say, I'm going to go pay this famous audiobook reader to read my book for a month.
Yeah, and so now you can have AI literally read anything for you. Like even your daily news, you could have Michael Kramer be reading it for you. Like how crazy could that be?
That would be pretty crazy.
You'd have, anyways, it's just nuts. I think it's an interesting future. It's something that I'm not sure like quite yet how I feel about that because like yes, I'm very excited like to be able to just have like audiobooks for everything because it's easier for me to get through stuff because I drive to work every day.
Yep.
And that takes up time. But I also really like that their artistic input into their reading.
The imperfections are part of it.
Yeah.
It's the humanity of it.
And the AI can predict, like, maybe you'd use this voice or that voice or someone else, but maybe you wouldn't do it that way. Like you have your own thoughts on like how you change voices. Maybe you come up with another voice that you wanted to add in there that you really like, and AI will never capture that unless you add it in there.
It's hard though, because you almost have to take a step back and say, am I just resisting change? Is the change inevitable? Is it inherently better? Are there ways to make it better and I'm just resisting that? Or are there real benefits to having a human read it? Because I might be on the other side of that. Like, yeah, there's a lot of value in the audiobook readers, but I do think this is something that AI could do better in general. I mean, across the board, there are elements where you might be able to say, okay, hey, this character, can you make it more feminine or make it more masculine or make it more confused and scared? And then immediately it's done. Like that's not something that's even possible right now with a regular reader. You wouldn't say, hey, Michael Kramer, can we just re-record that whole thing because I want you to change this voice just a little bit?
Oh my gosh.
Like, that's something where you can constantly be tweaking these sounds and all of it. And I think that is, I think it's the future. I do.
So it sounds like to me that you're telling me that there is still a human touch involved because you've got a director.
Exactly. You'd have more of a director, but it would be something that you could finish an audiobook in a week.
Yeah.
With one person.
Oh my gosh.
And you don't have to worry about their voice getting tired. They're just editing.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. I still think that you're going to be leasing out people's voices for that. I think that's probably the future too. Yeah. I bet that there's a company that starts, maybe we should start it, is a company that is getting together all these people who do audiobooks and putting together a group and like selling their voices like for audiobooks.
Licensing the voices. That is going to be crazy. I'm not even sure how you would go about copywriting your voice.
Yeah, well, can you imagine? Like, you wouldn't even just have the audiobook readers doing this. This would be like, you could have President Obama reading your books. I'm not even kidding, dude. Like, can you imagine? You could have anyone reading these books for you.
What an interesting question.
Yeah.
Who would I have read these books? Like Morgan Freeman read?
Oh, dude, that would be awesome. Yeah.
Who's that guy? David Attenborough.
Yeah.
That would be a good one. He does the Planet Earth.
Oh.
All of the like Earth documentaries.
Oh, I thought that was...
You would recognize the voice immediately.
Wow, I thought that was Morgan Freeman. I guess the ones that I've watched.
He does some as well. Yeah.
Yeah, or James Earl Jones would be great. He's the one who does the voice of Darth Vader.
I think it's fun because you start to think about all the possibilities. I know.
Can you imagine him reading The Way of Kings? James Earl Jones, the guy who does Darth Vader.
Yeah, I'm like
that would be a good.
But you could put all of these famous voices in as just characters too.
Ooh.
So you could have Michael Kramer narrate, and then the characters could be all these people. Like James Earl Jones could be Dalinar.
Oh my!
It could just be like, how crazy would this book get if you could put all these famous people in as like you could just have any voice you want. You could have Tom Cruise be Kaladin. It could be anything.
Dude,
I'm blown away.
This is actually starting to get exciting.
And this is how the future arrives.
Yes, seriously. This went from doom and gloom to excitement. So
it is exciting. I'm excited for what the future holds. And this is something that we love about the fact that we get to talk about these things because this is happening right now. These things just came out. We get to chat through what we think about how it impacts the industry of books and reading and listening and all of that. Just makes an impact on how we live our lives, which is so cool.
It's super huge. I think the future is bright, exciting. It can be terrifying when we don't know what it's actually going to look like. But who knows? Future of audiobooks could be graphic audio if you're into that. Honestly, AI could do that. It could pull that off too if you're way into that.
It would do a good job.
It would do a great job.
I'm excited to see
Maybe it would even sound good on 2x speed.
If it can handle that, I respect that.
Because it'd probably be able to adjust the voices to be faster, but not mess up the sound effects and everything.
That would be something else. Or it would pick different music, faster music. Oh
man.
We are in for a treat, and we will be covering it every step of the way. AI is going to be a big part of the future, and make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything that we come out with, any of the fun discussions that we have.